given us. Be with us as we conduct the court, that we do it for the best of the county and for you. Be with those families in Georgia as they need uplifted. Forgive us of our sins. Amen.
Yes. Thank you for joining us this morning. We'll start with the roll call. Ms. Troutman.
Magistrate Lowry.
Here.
Magistrate Bishop.
Here.
Magistrate Troutman.
Here.
Magistrate Johnson.
Here.
Madam Attorney. Here. Sheriff Frizzell. Judge Second
Here. Thank you. We'll proceed to the consideration for approvals. The first is item A, the minutes from the August 22nd and August 26th meetings. You should have those in your binders. Hopefully receive them prior to today, but unless there's any changes, I'll gladly entertain motion to approve the prior meeting minutes.
Motion to approve minutes of August 22nd and August 26th meetings.
Second. Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next, we'll move on to the treasurer's report.
Under item B, the top two sheets is your balanced financial statement for the month of August 2024. Right behind that is the bank balances as of yesterday afternoon. And then in the back of item B is the profit report as of yesterday afternoon as well.
Profit. I was like, oh, what's that? Go ahead. I understand. I always get these acronyms mixed up and confused, and I always labeled something really close to this, but what is the local utilities revolving loan fund? I know we had something else and we moved that money out. And this one, but I don't remember what this is for. It's 612. Yeah, so that is kind of like the small business revolving loan fund that we did. It's strictly for utilities, so the cities, North McLean, and what it is say they have a major water valve or they need to do a project to go to, what's that? That's our funding now. Well, we can't use it. The way it was set up in the House Bill project, it's meant for the cities to do a revolving loan, and they can use it to match KIA funding to do, say, a sewer rehabilitation project. What was the other one that was like that? The small business revolving loan that we just did for Calhoun Pharmacy. I don't, well, that's it. The 612, that's it. Yeah, and they'll administer for us, so, not yet. We've had a few inquire about it, and the way we've set it up tentatively, which will really go through the whole process just like what we did with Calhoun Pharmacy, until we have a true applicant and we get to test the mechanism of how it works. It'll essentially follow the same process that the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority does. And so they'll have to submit a project, get engineering specs and bids. We just get to be either the sole financial provider or an additional piece of the pie that helps them do a project. And a lot of the times what I've seen with our cities and utilities is they maybe don't have the local match, and ours can be that to help them, because usually there's got to be a 50-50 or a 20-80, depends on what program they apply for, and we know there's water and sewer needs there. It's just whether or not they need it at the time. So a couple projects that come to mind that might have helped would have been that water main break on 136 going to Purdue that we had to emergency fund and fix. So, and then the more that they put in or borrow from it, essentially, with it being revolving, that fund will grow. Yeah. So, does that answer okay? Any other thoughts? No such thing as a bad question except for one I didn't ask. Quote Donna on that. All right. You got more?
No, that's, I need just approval for that. Because
All
it's
right.
a balance report.
Motion to accept treasurer's report.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Under item C is some budget transfers that we are needing to complete. We're going to take $51,000 from the capital project construction line and $1,500 from the reserve for transfer. Put $51,000 in the economic development revolving loan, and then $1,500 in the coroner autopsies attendant service line for $52,500 in and $52,500 out.
Motion to approve transfer 12.
Motion's been made and seconded.
Second.
Any discussion? So this transfer here, when you look, just for a point of clarification, you just approved the bank checking, but in the appropriation side of the budget, we didn't have a line in the general fund to administer the loan that we just did. So we created a new account code. The 990 didn't exist because we haven't had an expense out of it. So that's what that 5075-990 is. And then we have a pending budget amendment because we carried over more in those funds than we anticipated. So when we do that budget amendment, we'll add the $612,000 to the local utilities revolving fund in the general fund. And then it will create what we just transferred totally in the budget for the economic development revolving loan. But I didn't want to over appropriate something that we hadn't had an expense for yet, hence having to do the budget amendment. So luckily we've had some good news and somebody applied for it, so now we need to do that budget amendment. We'll probably start that, we got the end of this month, will be the end of the first quarter. So we'll do it probably the first meeting in October for the budget amendment. So we'll proceed to vote on transfer 12. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Transfer 13 is in the jail fund. Taking $2,300 out of the reserve for transfer and placing that $2,300 in the routine medical line. $2,300 in and out.
Motion to approve transfer 13.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? What we're running into with this is we do have an inmate that has incurred significant medical cost, and the way the statutes and the rules lay, it's our burden to bear until either the medical conditions are resolved. I know there's a few counties, Henderson, for example, they've had some issues with some high medical bills. We've been fortunate the last couple of years that we haven't. But this is and this is after it was negotiated, but it's not the total cost of the bill. We probably got up to $10,000 on this one individual with the two bills that we've had. But it's just
pretty well. I mean, that's a lot of it, and we don't like it. But they do pretty well about RR and them folks that I mean, they realize something. 1 year, years ago, we paid for a heart cath and a pacemaker because they couldn't let the guy go. They did a little more.
Yeah. Key thing is to just get it moved to the state a little quicker where it doesn't hit us, right, Donna?
Yeah, but we're doing so many diversions, it doesn't keep kicking to the state. And that's a problem. And that's a problem only our legislatures can answer for us.
Might add that to our next trip when we go traveling. So, be a good topic for discussion.
Yeah, they're charged with a felony, but they're never convicted of the felony because they don't have a final sentence. So they're in between,
In limbo, sort of.
yeah, so they're on our tab.
Well, if you go back and do budget comparisons, you'll see that as of right now, we've exceeded what the average trend would be on medical expenses, hence that transfer. So we'll keep an eye on it and keep you aware if we need to do more transfers. So we'll proceed to vote on transfer 13. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Under item D is the claims for this fiscal court meeting. The general fund is $26,144.01. Road, $173,245.06. Jail, $5,187.42. LGEA, $4,316.90. Ambulance, $1,862.50. Dispatch, $23,085.91. Western Fire, $186, for a total of $234,027.80.
Dana, I have a question page 2 of 12, Tucker Funeral Home, transportation, $1,250.
Yes, the coroner had sent somebody off to do an autopsy, and Tucker's made that transport, so we're responsible for paying that bill to Tucker's.
We had Donna review it to make sure we had to pay that for KRF.
Why are we paying it?
There's a statute that requires us, and I had an Attorney General's opinion that requires it too.
Now, we are going to, we haven't, that's kind of like the medical. We haven't had a bill like that for a long time. And so we're going to, we typically don't have a lot of expenses from the coroner's office, but I'm going to send them a letter to let them know about the purchase order system, because we need POs for that. Just to call to Emily to get that in the system, that way we have enough. We could have probably preempted that bill and already transferred this money, but that transfer that we did previous for the coroner line is covering the appropriation for that. But that's what that is.
So, in them kind of situations, that
Yeah.
you have to have that done, so then that falls under the coroner, and then subs it out to that funeral home at that time. Their hub is in Muhlenberg County. Tucker's hub, I guess, is in Muhlenberg County. They just have a building there inside, but
It is transferred to local.
correct. Yeah. That seems rather pricey in my opinion, but send us a bill, we have to pay,
Pretty much.
Yeah, Louisville back at that. And I didn't talk to the managers and that question that, and I knew the first part about that has to be done in that type of situation. And I was like, well, why did we get a bill? Kind of just ignorance, I didn't know, I was like, why won't you need that again? It's not this company, so.
All right, any other concerns?
Let's sort of work on a building pad on page, first page. Building pad.
That was for the shelter at the park that we completed, the one that the Fair Board donated, but they had forgot, it was supposed to have been in last year's budget, but they just now sent us a bill to complete that. And that was Deer Valley that did that, because David and them, I believe, were working on a road at that time. Then they come back and rolled it down with the roller and fixed it for us later.
Wash and dry roads.
Any other concerns? We had a motion and a second already?
Pay open invoices.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Under item 8E is payroll for September 4th. The general fund was $60,148.05. The clerk, $2,575.77. Sheriff, $2,161.94. Road, $26,220.86. Jail, $2,388.66. Ambulance, $28,727.96. And dispatch, $13,631.01, for a total of $135,854.25.
Motion to approve payroll on 9/4.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
And behind that is two KPPA invoices needing to be paid.
together or separate?
You can do them together, it's fine.
Make a motion, we pay both of the KPPA bills.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
And under item F is utilities for August 2024 that have been paid.
While we're on the subject of utilities, because it is standing order, I wanted to get the discussion and thoughts of the court. We finally got it, for the most part, completed to transfer our email hosting and upgrade to cybersecurity suite that we've been working on for a while with Bob and Sharon's help. So we'll be converting to the McLeanCountyKY.gov. We're going to have a few example emails. Each of you will get an email as magistrates that'll be Northwest, Southwest, Northeast, and then you'll get a Teams account and OneDrive system to where instead of getting all these emails, you'll have a dedicated email and portal where you can go in and log into all the information. There'll be an app you can put on your phone, and all the employees are going to get that portal to where we don't send these emails and lose them back and forth. Trying to get with the times, but with that, there is a cost to host it at the level of security that we're not accustomed to. And it should be anywhere from $6 to $8 per email per month. It's a little bit of a cost, but it is helping us check that box with KCO on cybersecurity. Because you're not just getting an email.
Address?
Yes.
Okay, all right, you said per.
Yeah, so it's going to add a cost per person. But that's one reason why we haven't done the digital time clocks and adjusting to all that system, because rather than tie it to existing emails, when we go to these new emails, all the employee time reporting will be tied to these new email addresses. The reason why I bring it up in utilities is that we need to do it. KCO wants us to do it. And it would be easier to put it on standing orders, because it's going to be essentially a utility that we provide as a basic service. And so when we move into that, I'll bring all the details to you after we do the trial run and we make sure that it all works before we activate emails. But what's y'all's thoughts on putting it on standing order? It'll just be a reoccurring, that way we can pay it and it's not late.
You said that comes with Teams?
Teams, OneDrive, online, Word, Excel, the whole suite, I believe. Yep. And they were going to force us to go to like a GS2 Homeland Security level just because that was what Microsoft wanted, but we don't have to do that because we don't need all those inserts for your computer where you put your card. I mean, that's a little extreme for what we do here. We did look into the state hosting it, and it was $25 per user per month, so we've got pretty reasonable. Henderson Municipal Power and Light is our current host, and they're phasing that out where they won't. So we don't really have an option. But we want to go to 365 encryption to where it's safer, and then it should speed up our processes here to be able to back up. We have just a third level of backup for all of our system and really make it secure. So if you all are in agreement while we're on that topic of standing order utilities, you'd like to make a motion, we'll add that to the standing order list when that time comes.
Motion to add the email list to standing orders.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Now, when we go to add employees on that, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. When we go to add employees on that, is there, there's so many things you can do with that. I mean, 6 bucks a head, you know, and that'll eventually add up, but
Yeah,
tons of things you can do with it on their own, but seasonal mower guys don't.
Yeah. So that's, as we move forward, I think it's a good discussion we have with all of our supervisors to see who they think, especially clerical staff, supervisors, they're going to need it. You all for all the reports that we do, I don't think so. We could have just an abbreviated system where we just pay for the email itself. And we find that we don't really need that whole suite. We're not buying the true software. That would be a different expense, but we'll play it as we go. And it's going to come with its own headaches, I'm sure. We'll probably need to do a training on Teams because it's not like using just a regular on-site shared drive. But you all be able to log into this system. Say, for example, if Wendy posts the minutes, it'll send you a little update and tell you, hey, the minutes are there, or if Emily gets the bills to pay ready. Once she slides it, you'll get an update. It won't be waiting for an email. And then instead of scanning all these into a master email, they can just pull the files over. It'll upload them, and you'll have them at your disposal. Not only this meeting, but, yeah.
A big time saver, and as far as
Yep. All right, well, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion passes. And we'll revert back to the utilities.
To see approval for payment.
Motion to pay utilities.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next, we'll move on to item G, which is the second reading of the tax ordinance 24.220-400, whereas the proposed budget for the 2024-25 fiscal year has been adopted and approved by the McLean County Fiscal Court. Now, therefore, be ordered by the Fiscal Court of McLean County, Section 1, there's levied a general valorum tax rate per 100 assessed valuation on all taxable property within McLean County for the general fund, and such additional tax rate for each special district or another fund is indicated. For real estate, for the county, 16.50 cents, extension, 4.10 cents, the health department, 5.20 cents, library, 4.70 cents, soil conservation, 1.30 cents, tangible, except for motor vehicle and boats, county, 16.50 cents, extension, 5.99 cents, health, 5.20 cents, and the library, 7.05 cents. For motor vehicle tax, the county is 12.5 cents, extension, 1.20 cents, health department, 5.20 cents, and library, 7.05 cents. For the special and other property-related taxes, Buck Creek Watershed District, 0.10 cents, and the Timberland Fire Protection is 0.03 cents per acre. Section 2 reads that all the levied taxes levied herein shall be collected, accounted for, and dispersed as provided by law. Section 3, this ordinance shall be published in the McLean County News by title and summary and become effective immediately upon adoption. The first reading was approved at a special called fiscal court meeting held on the 26th of August, 2024. And if you all are in agreement today, the second reading will be conducted here shortly on September 5th, 2024. If you are in agreement, we just need a motion to conduct the second reading of ordinance 24.220-400.
Motion to conduct second reading of tax ordinance 24.220-400.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item of business I wanted to add as well. Previously, for item H, is discussion regarding the code enforcement officer job description. I've had Emily start the process of tweaking a few draft versions, but at this time, I don't feel like we truly need a full-time position to administer this program. I've had a few on the committee ask me when we're going to meet, but until we find a candidate for the officer, it's no real reason, in my opinion, to have the meeting unless we have all the parties in the room to get started. Since that time that we've appointed it, we've had more issues with some properties that this ordinance was created to address, especially the burning of unapproved materials in Rumsey. Now, we have had state air quality enforcement help and solid waste. But that property, the one in particular, continues to be a problem, significant, to the point it's a health hazard now, especially the day that they called. But the state did respond very quickly. But in regards to the job description, depending on the number of claims that we have, it could be a heavy workload in the beginning or a light workload. While we have the individual, I have one or two candidates. We thought we had another candidate. We've since had to back up and go a different direction because that person retained a current position. But I just wanted to open it up for discussion on other creative areas we could use. We had a dumping situation on a county road this morning, got a text message about mattresses, 3 or 4 deep. That could be a position that we utilize that person to go and research that right out of the gate. That was written into the ordinance to help with that problem. But just wanted to open up for a discussion on what all you want this position to do. As far as funding, looking at the budget, Jenny, the occupational tax administrator, has yet in the last 2 years to reach the full allocation. And I spoke with her. She continues to accomplish all the tasks. It's just going to need a transfer from that line to create the code enforcement line, because I'd be honest with you, I don't know how much to put into it because we don't know what the workload's going to be. I do have one candidate that is a certified peace officer that's not currently working for an agency, and he's interested, doesn't live here, so he wouldn't have any local ties, and I think that's what we need, someone that's unbiased. So I'm going to try to hopefully see if he'll be interested to do that. He's got another business that he takes care of, but he is interested in doing that. That way he can stay involved in case he wants to go back to that line of work later. But any thoughts on the job description and what to add to it? Any other items that this person could address while we're in it, you know?
I would just, when you're drafting it, make sure you got the ordinance in front of you, because we set out in the ordinance some specific things that they're supposed to do, and make sure those are all checked.
Thank you, Donna. Any other thoughts?
The sooner you can find someone and get them appointed, the better off we're going to be.
Well, and, you know, while we're on that topic, if y'all know of anyone that has a background in it, I know there's a few city-level code enforcement positions we've looked at, and it gives, you know, preference to an individual that's had 2 years of enforcement experience or prior law enforcement background. I know the example that Emily and I have looked over, that was one of the caveats at the bottom. It would be preference given to that. It's kind of like job experience. But I find that to be a hard, we may not find someone with that. We're willing to train them. You know, the training we went to the other day on planning and zoning, a large portion of that was code enforcement to some level. So, and we could have other jobs that we could need assistance with. There's times when we need someone that can go out and check for floodplain permits, just check elevation, or at least look at the site, you know, and have that capability. We'll circle back to that, but I wanted to let you know that we're in the process of that, and if you know of anyone that would be interested, have them call my office.
So part of it, and this goes along with the ordinance, like, I don't think enforce of what's been enforced or to cite, I guess, or bring back to the board. It's really an observation position, right? They're gonna, you know, drive by a state house and be like, wow, that's rough, or are they going to walk up and, they walk up the site up so many days, I remember part of it. Sort of, I guess it is more of an interactive thing. I was trying to think of...
The burden of the code enforcement will be with this officer position. The board that we've created essentially will only meet when there's a time of an appeal. And so if we don't have any appeals, the board really won't meet that much.
So currently, do we, and this is just shooting from the hip thing, that do we have...
You don't have an officer to enforce it, who's going to do it?
mail a letter?
Pardon?
Just mail the letter.
It's not set up that way.
I didn't remember.
The old system worked that way, and it didn't work. And the way for it to work, you got to have the officer to cite them. If there's an appeal, they go to this board. That way, it speeds up the process, and we solve the issues like, yeah.
And then there's an issue, I don't know if it's the board or the officer that can have,
Yeah, and then put the cost of that on the lien against the property, right, mechanics lien? Yeah.
and I forget who initiates that, the board or the officer in the statute.
Officer, I believe.
Is there any, just an idea, again, brainstorm, is there
Or ordinance.
any employee that we currently have? But I like the non-hometown too, though, I like that.
There's a few that I've spoken with that are afraid to do it. Maybe afraid's not the right term, but at the same time, they have the connections here already. You almost need somebody that, yeah, they don't want to be put in that situation. And then this individual, if they choose to take it, and I've tried to reach out to adjoining counties, maybe even to consider, the point of jurisdiction is it's not true law enforcement, but in some ways it is, and how that can cross county lines. If we were to try to do interlocal to share a code enforcement, I don't know if that, you can't really do that for law enforcement. I don't know if that would apply to code enforcement or not, but, obviously the pay will be something that will have to be negotiated based on the candidate too. Because if we find one that has 15 years of code enforcement experience, they just want to do it on the side, on an as-call. The one job description we looked at was an as-call basis. So kind of like the PRN, if we need them, then we pay them situational. Otherwise, they do whatever. And that's essentially what this position needs to be. We don't need to create an office where they just sit there and wait for the call that may never come, I think Nolan said he might be interested in doing it, but it just...
They need approval to advertise it, put it on Indeed and...
Well, I think we need to finish that description first, because I don't really know what to advertise until we really get it lined out. But in the meantime, if y'all know of anyone that could be interested, we can advertise for it if you all would like. We may get someone that we don't know about. I just wanted to have that discussion, because between those of us in the... Yes, it would need to be. Just run it in both papers. We could try that and see. We've been down the Indeed route, and it's a lot of time, and most candidates don't show up. I tried that one time.
You're right.
And
They need a job description first.
Yeah. We'll circle back to that. I just wanted to open that discussion. That way you all know we were trying to seek a candidate and get the position lined down. Moving on to item H, I've been made aware through a regional cooperation agreement and a grant that we received and the court had previously approved us to participate in with Madisonville Hopkins County Tourism. And we've got an individual that's going to come and part of this grant take pictures of different tourism sites in the county, and through that discussion with these different parties, I was made aware of the opportunity, and I'm going to try to speak with the mayors, and spoke with Rich Ornstein last week, and he sent me some statutes for us to review later on about the opportunity of trying to fund a tourism commission of some sort. And the reason why, there's a lot of state incentivized funding to help fund tourism. You might ask, well, why do we need tourism? We don't have a lot of things going on, but really if you circle back and you think about it, we do. We have Harvest Fest, the Battle of Sacramento, the rodeo, the fair, the Reinhardt 100 archery shoots, and what this position, or what's that? Yeah, and camping. One thing we have the capability to do, we just haven't had time, is to list all of our different parks and campgrounds on the state tourism website. It's a very detailed process, as they describe it, as listing assets. And that way, give you an example. When we created the Meyer Creek Park Facebook page, the rentals and usage of Meyer Creek has exceeded expectations. So we're halfway through the revenue side of the budget already, and we're not halfway through the year. And the park has already exceeded half of what I thought it would bring in for the year, and we're in September. With that said, if we do a better job of promotion, and essentially that's what this tourism commission could do, and it can be a joint venture with all the cities to help them promote their different festivals. We don't want it to compete. We want it to help them get the word out. Because, give you an example, the weekend of the rodeo, we've got 2 or 3 other activities that are going to go on because we don't have really good communication between all the different groups that plan events. So what happens is you got 2 or 3 different events that compete against each other. Rather, we could have, and we're limited on volunteers. I hear that a lot. Fundings necessarily and the donations are not the problem. We just need help. I know a few have cooked pork burgers before for a tractor pull or 2, so in the audience, and we have good volunteers, but when they're chasing 2 or 3 different events at the same time, we already have the website to do the community calendar, but we really don't have a group to help promote it and help us figure out a good process to submit. And we just want to try to help that. Because I feel like we have events that are really good, hometown events that are going on. We just need a mechanism to help organize it. And at the same time, we can apply for funding to help do that. From what I've been told, you say the commission, we go through and we fund a position, for example, if it gets to that point. You fund them for 1 year, then you can submit it to the state for reimbursement, almost like an EMA director position. But you got to have them with a track record that you're actually doing something in regards to that. And most counties around us that are small don't have that, but that's what, we have a lot of traffic. You see that on the traffic counts. 5,700 cars a day in front of the courthouse, over 7,000 through Livermore. The key thing for us to be successful going forward is to catch that drive-through traffic as they come through the county. We've had a few successes on businesses because we're halfway to somewhere. And if we can just take advantage of that, just wanted to open that up for discussion on y'all's thoughts on that. I think we've got the Island Bridge Festival on the same day as the rodeo, which the times don't overlap, but it'll be hard if there's some working at one event that want to come to this and vice versa. We've run into that with, I think, the Sacramento fireworks and the county fair that night. It tends to happen, and how do we just make it work a little better? So,
There's lots of things you could add, especially in Iowa. I won't go there though.
any thoughts on that? Okay. All right. Well, I'll see what the details are, and I've floated it also to the other, because I've had some comments, basic grants for the park, for example, went to Frankfurt. I've floated the idea to a few of the mayors for the county to invest more funds in other parts, but at the same time, one reason why we don't spend funds on parks in some of the cities is we don't physically own the property. So, for example, the grant that we applied for and I went to Frankfurt for yesterday, part of the covenant of the agreement is that we have to have a dedicated deed that if we get these grants, it can never be changed in perpetuity. So I can't go to Frankfurt and apply for grants for the city of Island when the county doesn't own the Island ballpark. The way around that is that we subdivide these parks on dual ownership to where we can expend funds. Battle of Sacramento, we own joint shared property deeds there. That's why we spend money there. Beach Grove Ballpark, we're doing improvements there with the help of donations right now because we own it. And without that deed, I saw a group yesterday in the presentation, really good project, and they got to the point on the checklist when we had to do the presentation, they said, do you have the deed restriction? And they said, we have to have that? And they said, we have a handshake deal. They said, don't cut it. We'll see you next year. And so for these grants, there's so many rules, and maybe we just don't do a good job of telling all the caveats to it. You all know that. But, it has to be, we resurveyed the whole deed and parcels for Meyer Creek with Donna's help. That helped tremendously because it shows that we have ownership. And once you get these federal grants, you've committed that piece of property to be in perpetuity as a park forever. And so there's a lot of rules to the federal grants to do that. I've entertained that idea, and we still need to have more discussions because we can do that. And that tourism element would fall under that, being able to get more funding through the tourism side of the state government to help prop up our parks. Because our park by acreage, just Meyer Creek alone, you throw in the battlefield, the floodplain properties, which could have a recreational element, we're looking at upwards of 260-plus acres of property that we have that can draw people here if we just use them effectively. So, anyway, we'll move on to the further discussions, the county road adoption standards. I listed that because I've spoken with surrounding counties about what they do in the event that there's a discussion of, say you have a citizen that approaches you in your magistrate district and they want you to adopt a road that used to be in the road system. The rules have changed, for example, since possibly the time that that road was discontinued. So if you go to adopt a road again, for example, dead-end roads have to have at least 3 to 4 property parcels on it with different owners, and then if you add different right-of-way restrictions, obviously the state minimum's 30 foot. We don't have a standard, like most of the counties around us, of what process we go through, a true form that a person completes that, hey, I'd like for this road to be back adopted, and then it makes David's job a lot easier, but when it comes to us, if it doesn't meet all those standards, it will never come to us anyway. And so I wanted to bring this topic, because we run into this on a few different issues on drainage and other work. We were able to solve those problems, but not with the easy route of just adopting a county road to make it an easy pass. That you wouldn't adopt a county road that had a 10-foot right-of-way, because it's not going to work for current standards. So is this something that the court would like to look at as far as setting our standards for what we need to meet to adopt a road? I don't think we want to make them so strict that we can't adopt them, but a lot of the roads that have since been removed from the county system, these parcels have been merged or combined into one, or there's only one property owner on the road. We don't want to get in a situation where we're just maintaining driveways, because there's a few of these roads that have essentially become that. You know, we've had the comments, we need to adopt all these old roads that go to parcels, it'll help with development. We can't, based on the state Department of Transportation standards for how you can adopt a road today. We've had a few roads where individuals wanted to have them removed, and I told them, I said, if you remove that road, it will not come back, based on current KRS statutes.
You said earlier in our system, what's the system?
So the easiest way to describe it, if you go online and you look up the Department of Rural Municipal Aid, there's a digital system that shows you all the true certified roads in the county that are in the GIS system. And so when you do that, it'll give you the county road route number. So we may know the road, yeah, and then you'll see that it's on there. You know, there's a few roads we've looked into on when they became county roads, and depending on when that happened years ago, there may not be proof at that time when the road was removed or when it was not.
And how does it get removed?
Depends on when it was. Now today, it's a whole different deal. You have to put signage within so many miles of the road. You have to send a letter, I believe, and let all the landowners that are adjoining know that the process of removing it, it's a very detailed. We haven't had to do that because we haven't removed any, but it's almost as tedious to add a road now, too, if you don't have all the requirements. And Rich has a really good PowerPoint I can send you all to kind of give us some guidance, but I think we need to do that because it would give us the framework to guide us on how we do that. It'll set some standards. Because right now, other than the state minimum, we can add all the extra standards we want, but we can't go below what the state standards are now. So I think that would alleviate some problems that we've had here recently in regards to maintenance and add my road, but don't add this road going forward.
So if I had a road and that field develops into housing or factory or something, we want to make that a county road, we would have to tell the landowners that road up to these specs, which is...
Exactly. And it kind of goes back to
X
our,
amount wide, so much gravel, so much, base, so much whatever, versus just, hey, there's dirt road in the middle of that field, and I'm tired of fixing it. And then right away, no, just standard.
and there are KRS statutes that prevent us from adopting and building that road. And that training we went to the other day on planning and zoning in Owensboro was really good because it talked about the comprehensive plan, which we're in the process of rejuvenating that plan. And one thing we lack as a county is emphasis areas that would be good to develop, and we will try to push growth into these areas. So you wouldn't push growth into like the Jewel City area where it's a regulated floodway. You'd want to push it to the high ground, for example. So Owensboro's got an example. I used to use that because that's where the training was. But we got on the topic of road adoptions and how the developer, it is their responsibility to develop. We've had one or two that wanted us to just get rid of planning and zoning because they didn't want to have to get the road to the standard that it needed to be. If you don't follow those standards, then somebody's going to have to fix that problem, and it's probably going to be the county later on. Give you an example, we're doing a drainage easement in, I think, what is that, Rolling Meadows right now, and that drainage easement was never conveyed with the property rights. So what we're doing now is we're just piecemealing in it. When a culvert collapses that was put in years ago when the subdivision was, we don't have the authority to really go across people's property. Yeah. And that, if we would have had those standards truly in place when we did that, it's not meant to be a burden. It's meant to set it up to where everybody enjoys living there. And then the county's not stuck with a bag of problems that we don't have the money to fix. Yeah, because we got to get there. But luckily, we've had good neighbors that have wanted to solve the problem. And we end up paying for the culvert anyway. So,
Kind of a tough situation, because if we got somebody wanting to put a subdivision road in now, there's specs out there for that, curb and gutter and all of it. And then again, we're going to hold them to that standard. But Joe over here has had that road in for a long time. It's not supposed to even be inspected. So how can we accept that, but we're holding these other people that are trying to build to a different standard?
I think it circles back to that discussion they had in that training about the Board of Assessment Appeals and the process of being able to do a variance if they prove that a variance should be given. And that's, you point to 3 to do that. We've never really used that entity. We have that already, and that's a good point. Because sometimes, you try to set all these standards, but history tends to be the biggest guidance on how do you essentially grandfather in a road that wasn't up to that standard, and how do you make it accordance. And that's kind of what we're trying to highlight here on those adoption standards, is that what's the minimum? What's the bumper lanes you need to be in to play our game of being able to adopt it and get it up to the standard that it is. And
Actually, Dave, this one is April 20th, 1977. Or after that being built.
Yep. Whatever happens, it needs to be equitable. And you could start, a lot of times I think we see in these standards that have been passed is the roads that are adopted or projects that come after this set date. Same thing with the drainage standards that the court passed a few years ago. Anything that had been installed prior to that was grandfathered in, but going forward, if it was a problem, it was at the owner's cost and discretion, unless it was a flooding issue. Then we have to have a magistrate of that area, myself and Donna, approve it, and we'll still go in and fix it if it's a public safety concern. So we'll give it a little bit of flexibility and the ability to go to that, not only the assessment appeals, but there's what's the other term for that entity, Donna? It's 3 or 4 individuals that sit on it. It's not the Planning and Zoning Commission, it's
Board of Adjustments.
Board of Adjustments.
Got it.
Yeah. So there is a mechanism, and I think they made that point in that training that, there will be times, as Gary alluded to where it just doesn't fit the mold. So, is that something you all want us to research on those adoption standards? Like minimum right-of-way, for example. If you want a road adopted, it can't be a dirt road. It needs to have at least gravel, for example.
If not, we're gonna have to adopt the road and sink a bunch of money into it.
And get it back up where it was. Say if it was removed and they haven't taken care of it since then, now they want us to just bring it back up to where it was because they didn't put gravel on it. You know, what's
There's a
the,
lot of roads, and you're right, there's a lot of roads in the county that I don't know why there are roads. I don't know why there are county roads. I do, I know why, but I mean, like, but if there houses are on or nothing, that just goes in the middle of dirt. Why in the world, why is that a county road? No, why, but it's, you know, it goes back to history, so, but if there was a standard, and I think that helps us too, as far as, you know, our positions and saying, hey, home rules, you know,
well, how many times have you all had the request, I know you get them, about we need to pave this road? Why? And you go look at it, and it's the pavement on that road in question may be better than pavement in other roads that we've applied for flex or, you know, discretionary road money. Now, I know it may not have the fresh black color and the sheen to it, but I think we're in the we use that same methodology on applying for that rubberized asphalt grant on Dillahay Dane Road. And David did the traffic counter. I never dreamed we'd have 100-plus cars a day on that road, but being able to put a numerical way to categorize what we need to do on the improvements or adoption standards, it kind of makes it towards equitable, where you can give a person a set of standards and say, hey, if we can do it, we'll do it, but it needs to fit this bill.
and it takes us out of it, it takes the person out of it, it takes the
Bias out of it, yeah. If you all think this is worthy of pursuing, if you want to give us the authority to do it in the form of a motion, we'll do that. And then we'll come back to you with the standards after we try to get those together.
motion to entertain the standards for minimal standards of adopting roads.
All right, motion has been made. Do we have a second? Second. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Closed session, okay.
Litigation.
I had two other, before we go into that, I passed you out David's recommendations, since it's a regular called meeting, regarding flex fund roads that we need to submit. The amount that we have been given that we will receive if we apply for these flex funds is $258,654. David has taken the opportunity and discretion to look at the following roads: Bill Taylor Road, Sycamore Street, Dogwood Street, and Poplar Street. That's in the Southeast District. In the Southwest District, Pete Rickard Road. In the Northwest District, College Street, Mount Liberty, and Pascal King. Then alternative roads for consideration are Lemon Lane, Brown Eubanks, and Hosea Brown, but those are not at a level that would be in regards to traffic flow and all these other standards that we've sort of revolved and discussed around today. And that would bring us to a total funding on the left column of $248,000 for the roads that were not alternative roads. And then we'll have to submit those, go through all the process of having the state come and rank the roads. If you all are in agreement, I'll entertain a motion to pursue flex funds for these suggested roads.
I got a question on Brown Eubanks. Is that overlaying the existing, or is that going back a little further on the property?
I do not know. I believe that's just overlaying the existing, because flex funds can only be for existing pavement. So I assume that's what he's doing, is to rehab that. Anything we add in additional to that will be truly just county road aid funds that come out of our coffers here.
Yeah, that is gravel about halfway there.
It's over one, there'll be a different pot of money to solve the problem on Brown Eubanks. Yeah, but flex has to be used, to my understanding, on roads. And Shelley, you got any insight to that? hate to put you on the spot, but
Yeah, I think what you said is correct. I think it's what's already there.
it has to be existing, it can't be the conversion from gravel to new.
That's my,
That's why it's not a greater amount on
I
that.
would just hate to overlay Brown Eubank without getting out what they're asking.
Yeah. And I told, David's working on that parking lot expansion, I told him to chase that today if he could, but we can ask him that. But I think that's correct, it has to be for existing pavement only, not new pavement.
Motion to move forward with placement.
Second.
These roads.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion passes. And then lastly, we need to go into closed session regarding litigation.
positive thing.
Motion to go into closed session.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion passes.